Hey guys, welcome to another episode here on BroTalk. Another episode which we will continue the studying of the book, The 48 Laws of Power. An amazing book in which we've got into already Law 31 and Law 32, two chapters that we've studied. We have interesting things to speak about, things that we've learned, and things that we can even apply to current day in our daily lives. So please tune in to this episode and don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Perfect. So
Mm-hmm.
we're almost done with this book, which is great. Um,
We are?
well, we're past halfway, and
Yeah, we're definitely past halfway. Yeah.
I believe at this point I've already used a lot of these laws in my daily life, at
Mm-hmm.
work, in relationships and stuff like that, friendships. It's it's been great, obviously to the good, not to the bad. Um, so, but yeah, let's continue. Uh,
Okay.
Law 31 titles Control the Options. Get others to play with the cards you deal.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. Judgment says the best deceptions are the ones that seem to give the other person a choice. Your victims feel they are in control, but are actually your puppets. Give
Mm-hmm.
people options that come out in your favor, whichever one they choose. Force them to make choices between the lesser of two evils, both of which serve your purpose. Put them on the horns of a dilemma. They are gored wherever they turn. A very manipulative law, in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
meaning a law where you get your way. It's stating that, true power comes from controlling the choices that others are allowed to make, in a sense, right? But making sure that the choices that you are giving them structures in a way where every option that you're giving them benefits you.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Benefits whom? Them or you?
benefits yourself, in a
Mm-hmm.
sense, right?
Yeah.
Um, Instead, it's like, in a sense, tricking them.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, okay, you could go things about this way, or you can go about this way, but either option is going to benefit you. And it's like, instead of creating some type of resistance in commanding someone directly, you're guiding them towards a decision that they believe they're going to make themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, right, instead of being a attack, or a person can feel attacked direct, no, you got to do things this way. This is the only option. Is this option or the highway, in a sense? Instead of phrasing it like that, you could be like, listen, I'm giving you the option where you could take option A, but option B also exists.
Mm-hmm.
But option B also benefits you, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, you're giving them the freedom of choice. But in reality, do they really are having a freedom of choice? They can ask themselves. Well,
Mm-hmm.
not really, in a sense, depending on every situation, but it's because each option or each choice that you're giving them, that they're gonna take, is gonna benefit them. Now, many people might be like, "Oh, what do you mean?" Well, there's a few examples I could give. It could apply to parenting. It can apply to the workplace, wherever you work, right? Like talking to your kids. I mean, you could tell them, you could go clean your room now, or go clean your room now would be like a more direct way.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you could tell your kid, you could clean your room now, or you could clean your room later. In a sense, this it's still happening.
Mm-hmm.
You're just giving them an option. Do you want to do it now? Do you want to do it later? But the outcome or the result that I want is still going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So,
So then how would you apply that? How have you applied that at work then? And I guess with the kid, it's like you can either do it now or you do it in 1 hour, right? So something like
yeah.
that. Yeah, because later it's like so vague. But you say you could do it right now or
Hmm.
you can do it in an hour. But you're saying either you're still getting what you want, but you're giving them the illusion of choice, basically.
Right. I mean, yeah, you're giving them the illusion as if they are still in control because they get to choose when they want to do it. But the outcome of it is still going to benefit you because it's what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And when you're going for a car, right? A dealership, it's like, okay, it's we'll give you options. Either you're gonna pay more monthly now, or we'll give you a longer loan, a longer term loan.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, we're gonna benefit, right? So it just depends what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we'll give you options. And when a task got to get done at work, you know, oftentimes there are deadlines,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't necessarily need to follow that deadline. You could do it. You could finish it beforehand. You could finish it at that time, but the option is out in the open on when you want it to get done.
Mm-hmm.
But the outcome is still the same. It's what I want,
Mm-hmm.
in a sense, right? Um, and I believe there, when people believe that they are in control of the decision they can potentially make, um, they believe like they're making the best option when they make that choice, right? There was a study that I was able to look up. It was called the illusion of control, done in 1975 by Ellen Langer,
Okay.
and it was a classic psychological experiment where it showed how people feel more confident when they choose something themselves than just like random,
Okay.
right? And what the example consisted of was either two things: participants picked their own lottery ticket, or others were assigned a ticket randomly. And what was the result? Well, those that chose their ticket believed they were more likely to win, although the odds were identical,
Mm.
right? Meaning that like choice creates perceived a perceived type of control, um, and when you don't have that control, it's like, you know, I feel like the want of doing it is less,
Mm-hmm.
rather than when you are given that choice. So it's a mix of it's a lot of psychology here mixed in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the stories also describe it in the law where this, I believe this Ivan, he was a king.
Mm-hmm.
He,
Ivan the Fourth. Yeah.
yeah, Ivan the Fourth, and he gave the option of like, well, he didn't give the option. He did give the option, but he already had left. And then once he had left, they had came to see why he left, and it was either he came back and got his absolute power back, or it was them facing Ivan's resignation towards the throne and potentially facing some type of chaos in the kingdom, right? So, um, giving people basically giving people's options that still benefit the outcome that you want is a way of quote unquote showing them that they still have control,
Mm-hmm.
but you still benefit.
Okay. Interesting.
So that's kind of what I grasped out of this law.
Mm-hmm.
How about you?
I think we as humans are a lot more complicated a lot of the times. In certain aspects, we're a lot more complicated, and in other aspects, we're very predictable. And from what I got from what you just said,
Mm-hmm.
and from reading and studying this chapter, is that people, as you said, they want to feel like they had the ability. The word that came to my mind as soon as I read this chapter was autonomy, like freedom, agency.
Of course, yeah.
People want to feel, hey, I made the choice, even if you were guided, or even if the conclusions or the results are already given, and you can choose, right? So even if the outcomes are guided, or we have guidance to get there, as long as we feel that, we feel good, and we as humans, we feel happy. And this is because, and I wrote here, human decision making is emotional, biased, and structured by context. Where a lot of times we like to think, and we spoke about this many episodes ago, and I always think about this. A lot of times we think that we're choosing or we're making decisions. Again, I'm not saying everything, but a lot of the times we think it's only purely rational, logical side of our brain. But a lot of times we don't see how our hidden biases or our hidden emotions get into the rationale or logic that we are using. It
Yeah.
gets mixed in, and then we make a decision. But leaving that part, right, is people want to feel free when they make their choices, or else they go nuts, and they want to rebel, right? And that's I wrote it here. That's called, I found that's called a self-discrimination theory, where people have this need for agency. So when
Mm-hmm.
it gets, so if your agency, your freedom is being resisted, right, or being blocked, you want to fight back, right? That's why a lot of the times there's been rebellions in different kingdoms and different countries, because if the rights of the people are being taken away, people want to fight against that. They're like, no, we want to feel free, right? But even though we do feel that, we as humans, we still like structured freedom. We want to feel independent, but we also want to be guided, most of us. That's why, for example, I was thinking about, for example, I have Spotify, right? And you know
Mm-hmm.
how like Spotify, a lot of times, once you start listening to certain music or certain categories of songs, it will start to make playlists for you, and it'll give you like different types of playlists, right? Like bachata 2024, or like hip hop of the 90s, right? Uh,
Okay.
right. Spotify does that because there's so much music in the world, it could be overwhelming. But if it gives you things that you already kind of like, and it gives you options, you don't have to think so much. You're like, oh, you feel it. I'm making my choice. I want to listen to this playlist that Spotify just gave me. But Spotify just gave you, they gave you structure. They just guided you. They gave you playlists that they came up with, and you like that, right? Or the same thing, it goes with menus, right? So even though we want freedom, but we as humans, we also want some structure and some guidance, right? And also, we as humans, we don't like too much options. We like options, but not too many options. And I think it was mentioned here, yes, on page 258. And I'm going to mention a famous study called, I forgot the name of the study, but it was a study about jams. I don't know if you heard of it, but I'll tell you in a moment. But page 258 of 48 Laws of Power. Um, wait, it says here, oh, the last paragraph says, the phrase unlimited options sounds infinitely promising. It sounds great, but unlimited options would actually paralyze us and cloud our ability to choose. Our limited range of choices comforts us. So there is this thing called the paradox of choice. It's a psychological thing which they've know, and it's related to this. When there's too many options, it paralyzes people. So there was this famous study about jams, where one group of people, they gave them only 6 flavors, only 6, and then I don't remember how many people came, but let's say 100 people came. 30% of the 100 bought different types of jams from the
Mm-hmm.
6. Then from with another group of people, they gave 24 flavors of jams, and let's say from the 100 people, again, I don't remember exactly how much, but let's say from the 100 people, only 3% of the 100 people, let's say, bought the jam. That's it. So so clearly, the less options, easier for us to make a choice, but you also don't want to give too few. So you see, it's like we as humans, we want to feel we have agency, we have the freedom, we got some options, but not too many options. And if we're guided, we still feel like we chose what's best for us. So basically, from what I learned, is that this chapter is basically teaching us. I'm starting to notice that each chapter, or a lot of the chapters, they're
Mm-hmm.
just teaching us different psychological truths about how we as humans are. That's really it. So if you know how people usually are going to be, or how they're going to think, you can predict, you can plan, you can quote unquote manipulate, you can do whatever you want with most people because most of us think this way, right? And when I was thinking of this law, I was thinking of there's a principle in mentalism called being restrictive without being restrictive. Being restrictive without being restrictive, where the mind reader, the mentalist, the person who's doing the mind reading can make the person feel like they could have thought of anything, but in reality, the mentalist makes sure that they have a narrow options. And if I know that you're only thinking from a narrow set of options, and if I can push you there mentally with my words, my body language, then I can kind of guess what you're going to think. But it looks like you could have thought of anything, right? But in reality, it's not really the case.
Well, yeah. I mean, when I was reading this chapter, I especially the title talked about cards. I just thought about magic, and
Uh-huh.
you're like the perfect person when it comes to speak about magic, right?
Uh-huh.
Because most of the time, magicians, without you realizing, influence you to like choose the card that they want you to choose, or around the section in a sense, right? At least, if I'm not wrong, it's over like a 90%
Of
accurate
what?
of magicians actually having you choose the cards that they want you to choose. And I believe that's true. Like, we could Google that.
The way that a magician or mentalist can 90% force.
Usually, a magician over 90% of the time could have the person that they're presenting the trick to choose the card that they wanted.
You mean verbally, with just verbally, or you're saying like if they have the cards in their hands? You're saying.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I would say through influence, whatever that influence is, right? Through words or through like the way they move.
So I would say if I have a deck of cards and I'm
Mhm.
just showing, let's say, a card trick, I could get the person 100% to always pick the card I want them to pick because I'm forcing the card. But if we're just saying words and like you're right, then it's not 100%. It could be like 90% or over 90%.
Yeah, that's why. Obviously, if you're gonna force it, right? If you're gonna do like your little double pickup, right? And then
Well, that's not forcing the card.
it is, because you're like,
No, no, it's not. No, it's not.
this is
I'm
the top card. It's not the top card.
okay, but you were saying, sorry.
But yeah, meaning that like people can be guided to decisions while perceiving manipulation,
Mhm.
because this is either way a psychological truth. It can also be somewhat manipulation, especially if the way you use it. And I feel that while you do, it's such a smart way to do it, because people tend to resist orders but
Mhm.
accept choices. So once you push people to do something and they're not like so comfortable doing it, or like, they might not be so convinced, but once you give them a choice, it's like, okay, it's my decision. But in reality, it wasn't, or not that it isn't, because it technically still is your decision, but it was definitely influence, and I guided you where I wanted you to be, right? Um, it's like, I mean, there's so many, when you're playing chess, when you're playing different sports, like you could push people where you want them to be, in a sense.
Correct, but it's normal because we all think, or we all feel, or most of us feel like this. Like I do this at work too. Like when I'm treating patients, because I go to people's houses, right? Like especially in the past, right? Like when I would go treat people, let's say for example, in their homes and stuff like that. A lot of the times, if they were giving me a
Hmm.
hard time, and I could tell like they wanted to give up, I would say, listen, I'm going to give you two options. I would tell them, listen, I'm going to give you two options. I know you want to end and you want to quit it. And I know you want to quit. I know you're tired and you're in pain. But I'm going to give you two options. You can either give me 30 straight leg raises, right? or we can go up the steps and down the steps 2 more times. You pick, you choose. Whatever you decide, we're going to go with that. But remember, once you make a decision, we're not going to go back. I'm going to leave it up to you. So you see what I'm saying? In reality, there could be more exercises that I could give them as an option, or they could say, I don't want to do anything, just leave me alone. But because I gave them 2 options, right? And I'm saying this is your decision. Whatever you choose, we're gonna go with it. So make sure you choose well. This is good for you. It's like, okay, and then people a lot of times they would calm down. They would make a decision, and it was easier. And sometimes even after doing that one, they're like, actually no, let's do a little bit more. It like motivated them.
Right.
And they felt better because I gave them a choice. Right. So, but this doesn't just apply to regular like day and day. This also applies to, like, for example, politicians do this, restaurants do this,
Yeah.
Netflix does this too. Cult leaders, they use this psychological tactics to control people, and it's like give you options. They're like, hey, listen, these are your options, guys. Choose.
Yeah.
You get to choose. But in reality, as you said, the outcome or what they want you to believe or feel is going to keep going back to their agenda. It's just that they're paving the way for you, but people don't realize that.
Correct. And in the book, in page 259, under the title "Alter the Playing Field," he talks
Yes.
about John D. Rockefeller and how he created an oil company, and he was starting to buy out other smaller oil companies, and he began to do this in secrecy, but and then other companies met him with resistance.
Mm-hmm.
So he played it smart. He was like, okay, I'm buying oil companies. You have your own oil companies. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to buy the rails that transport these oils.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're going to depend on me because you want to get your oil from just like you did from point A to point B. Well, you got to use my rails.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have to pay me, right? Or you might not have to do that. You could just sell me the company.
So then, what does that? What's the connection between that and with what we're just talking about?
What do you mean?
Because you brought up alter the playing field, right? So what does this tactic have to do with what we were talking about?
Oh well, you had mentioned how this.
Netflix and all that stuff.
So I didn't hear what you just said. What?
Yeah. So what's the connection between this thing you just said with like the politicians, the restaurants, cult leaders using this tactic?
Well, yeah, it reminded me. It reminded me of the story that I read right in the book. How he used this tactic. It was more like a manipulative tactic in a sense where, like, okay, you don't want to do this, and I'm going to go this way, and now you have the option of paying me more fees to using the railway, or I can own your company now, right?
Okay.
Right. And whenever you said this also is used in a much more broader, bigger aspects in life, like politics, restaurants, and stuff like that. It reminded me of the story, but it also reminded me of what we're currently going through right now, right? Which is like the war between the USA and Iran, right? Before this war even started, there was a lot of like um, this law was used in a sense where like um, the USA was offering Iran certain choices.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you can negotiate with us and accept our sanctions relief conditions, and we can help your economy, right? Or you could refuse these negotiations, and you're going to face just an increased sanction. You're going to isolation, and yeah, just not or trade, not have help through us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, or also, I mean, another thing was, we could give you money, we can help your economy out, you can have a beautiful country, you just can't have any nuclear weapons,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, in a sense, it's like either choice that I'm giving you is going to benefit me, regardless if you make negotiation with me or you don't, because I'm already in a good place, meaning that the USA, right? Meaning if you negotiate with us, you're going to strengthen your relationship with us and we're going to have some type of diplomatic leverage. And if you don't, then it's just going to justify further pressure in the future, meaning like through like some type of coalition building. So at the end of the day, when the USA throughout these years, I mean, and even in recent time, was giving these options to Iran, they're still benefiting. And Iran, at that time had the choice to choose either one. Either one is still going to benefit the U.S. Um, but obviously now we know what's happening. We are in midst of war.
And I guess then I guess if that's the case, what is Iran? I mean, I don't know if you know the answer. I mean, I don't know the answer. What is Iran then doing, negotiating back to make sure that whatever happens still benefits Iran and not America? Is like I guess like America's using, let's say, Law 31 to negotiate. Is Iran also using Law 31 to negotiate back with the U.S.? Right? Like I don't know.
I don't remember the law. I don't feel like they're using um this law. I feel like they're using another law, maybe the conceal your intentions law.
Okay.
That was like the very beginning of the book, where you accept certain conditions because Iran,
Law 3.
yeah, Iran has accepted in previous history um, certain conditions that have been, imposed on them to not develop any nuclear weapons, et cetera, et cetera. But we know, and there's been proof that hasn't been the case, where like they'll lie and say, yes, we're going to do this, but they're not doing it, right? So, yes, we're telling you that our intentions are to follow whatever you say, and we're choosing the option that you want, but we're using the law back towards you. We're just concealing what we actually really want to do, right? So it's like I believe both are using laws once against the other, but I don't think Iran has the power to use this law. Because usually, if you're going to be using this law, you have to somewhat, and you can tell me if I'm wrong or right, but somewhat be the superior in the situation, or have the leverage, or have the upper hand, because if both choices are going to benefit you, not in every scenario, but at least in most scenarios, you have to have the leverage to be able to use this
For Law 31.
for Law 31.
For example, when I read the other example, I think you're right. When I was reading the other example, page 256 and 257 of the 17th century French courtesan Ninon de l'Enclos, I think that's what you said, or Ninon de l'Enclos. I think it's the first one. That basically, you're right. She had the leverage, right, to entice these famous lovers that came from royalty and nobility, right? She had the advantage, the leverage, so that these guys could go after her, right? So I think you're right. If you're the one that's on top or has the leverage in this situation, you can control. I mean, even the chapter says control the options, get others to play with the cards you deal. But maybe, as you said, again, I don't know so much about the Iran thing, but maybe when there's negotiations, depending if you're the underdog or not, or you're the one that's leverage or not, you're maybe using another law of power as the defense versus the other guy or the other country is using another law or the same law but in the offense. So right, so like it's like this game of chess, but with politics
this book is completely used in politics, like.
Oh, yeah, 100%. But I think if you work in politics, you'll definitely see how this works a lot more, right?
Oh, yeah. I feel like in relationships, friendships, you don't. It happens, but you don't really like see.
You could do this,
of course, but you don't see it. It's more like
I
I don't know if it's subliminal or just hidden. Wow. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and policy is just out there. Like,
Well, I think, well, first of all, the book is called the Laws of Power. Power, it's like more about, you're right, as like politics, war, fighting, taking over, right, acquisition. And maybe you use this more. I know he has another book called like the 48 Laws of Seduction, right? The Art of
yeah, yeah,
Seduction.
yeah, I've heard of that too.
So maybe that book has more principles with friendships and relationships, right? But
Oh, yeah, seduction.
yes, yes. Unless you're trying to seduce your friends, I don't know. But this law also has a very dark side.
Of course.
I think this one has more of a dark side than a good side, to be honest.
I believe most of the book, well, depending on how you interpret it or how you see it, right? It's good for the civilized, bad for the uncivilized. But there's a lot of darkness in this book and in this chapter as well. Like, for me, it's just all about manipulation, like getting what you want.
or
Either
or at least positioning yourself in a better way.
it's like position yourself in a better way. I'm not saying that was the author's intention, but I guess the way you can interpret it is like it could get to that point, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
even in governments now, like, okay, you don't want to get to this point. Okay, now we're gonna go to war. So it's like, do you either follow or you don't? Like,
hmm yeah.
no, it's a lot of good and bad in this book, but I like it.
Me too. There's a lot to learn. All right, you ready to go to the Law 32?
Yeah, yeah,
All right, I'll read it. This is Law 32. Play to people's fantasies. Ooh, now we're gonna get to some good stuff.
I like fantasies.
For me, I honestly thought this was the more interesting one for me personally. But let me read the judgment first, okay?
Okay, go for it.
So the judgment says, the truth is often avoided because it is ugly and unpleasant.
Facts.
Never appeal to truth and reality unless you are prepared for the anger that comes from disenchantment. Life is so harsh and distressing that people who can manufacture romance or conjure up fantasy are like oases in the desert. Everyone flocks to them. There is great power in tapping into the fantasies of the masses. Wow. So,
Wow.
wow. I got a lot of thoughts when I read this. A lot.
Tell
So
us.
I would first start and say this. So I wrote here in one of my notes here, I wrote, right, this law really works because we as humans were not, capital NOT, we're not purely rational creatures. We are creatures who love stories. We are storytelling creatures. And a compelling fantasy can override logic, evidence, and even preservation, which
Mhm.
says a lot. That if you can tap into a fantasy that a people, a country, a town, a nation has, and you can fulfill that fantasy, right? Because we are wired as humans to understand it and connect more with a narrative or a story rather than data,
Mhm.
you can basically control them because our brain is built to like stories over facts. Uh, I was there was this article from I have it here. I was reading this article from the Greater Good magazine, Science-Based Insights for a Meaningful Life, and it
Mhm.
was written by Paul Zak in 2013. And basically, this neuroscientist shows that when we hear stories or we connect with stories, that's why we love movies. I mean, I love movies, right? But we as humans, we love the visual art,
So,
movies.
all that, yeah.
We connect with stories, and when we connect with stories, it increases our oxytocin, which increases trust and empathy within us. So if you present raw facts and statistics, and I think for the right person it can work, people will analyze it and like, okay, and they'll try to connect with it. But if you say a story and you tap into a fantasy, people will feel and they'll connect a lot more and they'll trust you better. That's why, for example, a lot of very good financial advisors or people who talk about money, let's say online, a lot of times they'll realize the better way to get someone to hire me so I can give them advice. You don't tell them, hey, this index fund or this stock or this mutual fund grew 7 to 10% in the last year. No. You say, hey, imagine if you retired at 50. and you're making passive income. You travel the world while the money works for you. Wouldn't you love that?
Oh yeah.
You're like, yes, that one's going to motivate more action because it's tapping into one of the four fantasies, that we as humans we love to connect to, right? There's like universal story structures or fantasies that since the beginning of time when humans have been writing or telling stories, it always falls into these structures, right? That's why, believe it or not, there is a formula to how to write movies. There's a formula on how to say a story. There's a formula on how to say a joke, right? And a lot of times they follow the same structure. I'm not saying it's all the same, but it's similar because there's a structure to it, a climax. You hit it, and then you slowly go down, right? And there's so many books that talk about how to create the right narrative. That's why a lot of speakers, politicians, leaders, they're so good at saying stories because it connects with the people, right? People want to feel that they're special. People want to feel that they've been chosen, which I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, right? But people want to feel like they've been chosen, they're special, that they're the hero, or then in the future there's this paradise or there is this utopia that's coming. So if you can know which story frame to tap into their mind, you can control them, right? And I'll say one more. I mean, I have a lot more to say, but I'll say one more thing that connects to fantasies. When I was reading about this, something that came to my mind was, have you ever heard of something called the placebo effect?
Yeah.
So the placebo effect is when basically people, they give them fake medicine. But because the person believes that the treatment is going to work or that it's real, even if it's fake, the belief of that person altered and it changed their internal physiology. It changed it. And studies have shown that placebo effect, which is one of the most powerful things in medicine, they found that placebo effects, and again, these are fake treatments, have helped people reduce pain, improve depression, or like even get better, right? So fantasy can even produce real biological effects on people, right? A fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
So this just shows you how powerful this is. That a lot of the times it's not about being the more skilled person, the better player, the better this. I mean, it helps, but what it boils down is to, can you connect with people through stories? And
Right.
I think that that's just fascinating. So yeah,
It is. I mean, either way, it's hard for me to believe because I try to be as rational as possible. It says that humans humans are not purely rational, right? We
or
derive
not.
ourselves through a lot of emotion, identity protection, narratives, right? And people prefer like pleasant illusions over uncomfortable truth. Because truth often creates like resistance, while fantasy creates like an emotional attachment, right? It's like stories and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, which is crazy because this is something that I was looking up. And have you heard of, just like the placebo effect? Have you heard of something called the I can't even pronounce it, bro. Illusory truth effect. Illusory truth effect. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correct, but it's when people hear a claim repeatedly, they begin to believe in it, even if it's false.
It's true. That's 100% true. It has happened to me all the time.
Right. And why? Because repetition makes statements feel familiar, and familiarity is mistaken for the truth.
Uh,
As we've seen in recent history, there are certain political slogans that repeat enough, they are accepted as facts.
really, really. Please tell me.
This is not a podcast of politics. So
Oh, it's not. Oh, this is the wrong podcast. I'm sorry. I'm gonna exit out of the Zoom.
I will stop myself there. But no, it's the truth, right? Once something is repeated so often, it's like it just starts to become a fact. And when it's not even a fact, right?
Mhm.
Um, and people often will mistakenly think it's true when it's not true. But that's the whole point of connecting with someone through emotion, through fantasy. instead of saying the truth about
Mm.
something. Why? Because sometimes the truth could be uncomfortable, and people don't like to feel uncomfortable or don't like to accept the truth. So if I could um, accept something that's maybe slightly true or not necessarily true to its fullest, but it has a fantasy in it, then why not?
Uh-huh.
It makes me feel better. Um,
Uh-huh.
and that's kind of what I understood from this chapter, to be honest. That uh, you want to sell a fantasy, you don't want to, because you gave an example, and I just remembered right now, um, about this whole financial planner thing, right?
Mm.
It's the way he talks to you, right? It's the marketing, in a sense. Oh, by 50 years old, you could be traveling the world, you could be doing X, Y, and Z, instead of him telling you, well, if you want to get to this point at 40, 50 years old, you're going to have to sacrifice a lot. And you're going to have to, you know, start eating at home more. You're going to have to start saving money. You start doing this, you got to start doing that. All true. It's not like whatever he said before that was the fantasy. It's not like it's not going to require whatever I just told you. It is.
Mm.
But it's the way, I guess you say it's the way you portray it. It's the way you make it a story, in a sense. It's the way you make it into an illusion instead of just being a direct person, and telling them the hard cold truth. But I could tell them the hard cold truth, but by painting a fantasy, in a sense.
Well, also because truth is difficult and people don't want a lot of times do the work to get the better results. It's also because people love to fantasize, and fantasizing a lot of times is fuel.
Women love it.
It's fuel for you to feel good, and a lot of times also we as humans we are attracted to our future selves or possible selves, right? That's a lot of times people are always imagining, oh, once I start to work out in 6 months, I'm gonna look so buff and so good, or I'm gonna overcome my fear of this. But it's like, bro, you haven't started doing anything yet. You're just imagining it because we like to imagine our future selves. But then a lot of times we don't do anything. We're just always imagining. And a lot of the times, and there was a psychologist, I
They're like
think,
scared to do it.
what?
They're like scared to do it.
It could be that they're scared. It could also be about laziness, not really ready to commit to that goal.
Or not having the option to do it.
It could be many things. It could be many things, right?
Women
It's
be
not
fantasizing a lot.
what
I
what
said women be fantasizing a lot.
women do fantasize. I mean, but I mean,
And a
yeah,
lot. You know what I mean? Like,
yes, because they want to marry you, they want to have many kids with you, right? But I'm here talking about just people fantasizing. I'm talking about people are fantasizing about. Well, I guess that could also fall into this, I guess. But then it's like, if we're gonna say that, it's like, well, it's true. A lot of women do fantasize, but then are they actually putting the work too, right? Because if it's okay to fantasize, I do want to say it's okay to fantasize, but you want to fantasize with realistic planning, then you can get the goal. But to be fair, if you also are fantasizing about marrying someone, you got to make sure that they love you too, and that it's not just a hookup or it's not just a thing on the DL on the down low, right? You got to make sure that they're on the same page as you. A lot of times, sadly, women are with guys where they just love how they feel with this man, that then they start to fantasize. If I feel like this with him, like imagine if we have kids,
it's
we get
lust.
married with this. What?
It's lust.
Some people would say it's lust. Yeah, some people would say, but what if there's no sex and it's just talking, but you make her laugh, you take her out on dates, but there's no sex? Then maybe it's a little bit lust, but maybe it's also like, it's also the idea of like, if I feel like this with this person right now, like this, imagine if we went the full way. But I think a lot of women make the mistake that they don't realize, hey, is this guy matching you or giving the same energy? Or he's also talking about marriage with you. Are you the only one who's doing it? Because a lot of times it's women want to project their own thoughts into the relationship.
Of course, that's what they do. But it could be also men. They could be playing to their fantasies,
Playing the woman for their fantasies.
playing to their fantasies. Like because the law is titled "Play to People's Fantasies," right?
Yes.
So like the guy could be playing to her fantasies,
Got you. Like being manipulative just to
manipulative just to get what he wants, but not fully, go all the way in a sense.
Oh yeah, of course. 100%. Yeah. 100%. A lot of guys
Fortunately, this should never happen, but it just happens.
who are very good with women, but they're not ready to commit. Let's say you're right. They'll use these different tactics, mind games, to keep them like at bay, to keep them on the side, but they never commit. And they just play to her fantasies, where it's like they'll give them enough, like right, they'll give them enough to survive, but not to save the full way, so so then they don't become compromised into a relationship with the woman.
Gotcha. Okay. So they're highlighting the fantasy version of who they are.
Yeah, like for example, let's say a guy is like hanging out with a woman and stuff like that, and he's like, "Man, you're so beautiful. I could just imagine how much more beautiful you're gonna become in 5 years." Let's say now,
Or be like, I can imagine what our kids would look like. Bow, bow.
correct, but like, so you're right. If you think about those two things now, for the first one, did the guy say, "I'm going to be around in 5 years," or "I'm going to marry you and we're going to be married"? He didn't say any of that, but he just said enough. He's like, "I could just imagine how much more beautiful you're going to be in 5 years." So in her mind, she's like, "Oh my god, 5 years. He's thinking long term now. This and this, this." I mean, maybe the guy is thinking long term. I don't know, but now she's having all these thoughts, right?
5 years is not long term.
What?
I said 5 years is not long term.
True, but like for her, it's like, oh, that means he's thinking the long game, right? So again, there's so many ways to do this, and actually, I know you were gonna say it, but when I thought of this, playing to people's fantasies, I thought, and we did an episode on this. So if you haven't checked that out, check it out. I mean, it is 2 hours and 20 minutes. So if you have a long drive or you're at the gym and you want to hear
It's worth it.
it's worth it. Us two brothers talking about a lot of different doctrines that the JWs have that are not really biblical, and the way that they get to their conclusions is wrong. The JWs use Law 32 a lot. Again, I also think Law 31, but we're talking about Law 32. They use these laws, and they put these powerful fantasy frameworks to give their members meaning and identity that traps them.
Yeah.
So when I read this, I thought of that.
Okay. Could you maybe give one example?
Okay, so for example, you probably remember this. When we were JWs, we're not anymore, but when we were JWs,
Unfortunately.
What?
I said unfortunately.
Unfortunately, we're not.
No. You said when we were JWs, and I was like, unfortunately, and then
So when we were JWs, I don't know if you remember this, but a lot of the times they would hint very strongly, or just say it, that they were the correct Christianity or the correct religion with the right biblical interpretation, or we are the ones that are correct.
We are the truth.
We are yes, la verdad, right? The truth.
Say that. Though.
What?
I believe all Christians be saying that crap though.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, all Christians say that. Oh no, we have the right interpretation. We have the truth. We really follow the Bible. The rest of the world is governed by Satan, or they've been taken over by Satan's influence. The JWs say that a lot, and they also say that at the end of days, only a small group of people are going to survive. And they'll mention we're going to survive because we're correct, but also the people who didn't, like, let's say, didn't have an opportunity to learn about the JWs, right? They're going to have a chance in paradise to learn about us and to be good with us and God, right? Now, this fantasy of the chosen minority fantasy, right? Because think about it. What is it that they're really saying? They're saying that, hey, we as a small group of JWs, because I think there's only like 9 million in the world, we as this religion, we are correct. We've been chosen by God. We have the right interpretation. We know what's going to happen, and we're going to survive the end. So the fantasy is we are the chosen ones. We are the ones that are correct. So people are going to feel special, especially within the group, because they're like, we know the truth. The world is being lied to by Satan and politics and the world, right? And if you think about it, they will say, we don't participate in politics. We don't participate in wars. We reject holidays. We don't do this. We don't do that. They have this narrative in the story. Hey, we're chosen. We have the correct interpretation. We know what's the truth. But because this is the case, we are also more superiorly more moral. Now, of course, the JWs don't actually come out and say we are superiorly more moral than any other group or any other person. No, but they emphasize a lot of times that they will live more morally superior lives compared to el mundo or to the world,
Right.
because they don't get involved in the worldly stuff. So this activates this moral identity reinforcement within them, and this chosen minority fantasy of like, we're the only ones that know the truth. Everyone has been lied to. We are spiritually clean. We know the Bible while the world is corrupt. So that strengthens the group loyalty. It strengthens their identity, right? And it strengthens the framework. And if all you do is hang out with a bunch of witnesses and you're a witness, right, is just going to make whatever you believe stronger, even if it goes against logic, even if it goes against evidence and self-preservation. It doesn't matter. So the JWs use this very well. The organization and how it's structured, it plays to people's fantasies. It builds these fantasies of the ones. Again, there's other ones, but I'm mentioning these two: the moral superior story framework and the chosen minority one.
I mean, the chosen minority one, I feel like it's very elusive in a sense, right? Or like, uh, we're the only ones that know, therefore we're like so special in a sense.
I mean, people want to feel special. People want to feel special, which is normal. Which is normal, right?
No,
Right. No, you don't want to feel special? Oh. Well, listen, you Venezuelan Ecuadorian, right? You're not special.
my Maduro's in prison.
Go bail him out. He's in Brooklyn.
I know he's right here. Shit. Nah, but it's definitely true, and unfortunately, when we are manipulated into believing all those things, we tend to ignore the truth, because facts challenge our beliefs, right? And they feel like personal attacks. But the truth is that reality, it requires effort, slow progress, discipline, uncertainty. But fantasy obviously offers like immediate hope and meaning to life. So I guess humans prefer to respond to what, like, stories and symbols rather than like statistics.
I would say so. I would say for the most part, yes, that is true. Again, I'm not saying, and I don't think the chapter is saying that people don't respond to statistics or to maybe more evidential evidence, or more or things that have to do more with math or with numbers. No, people still respond with that, right? But what the chapter is really saying is that, hey, to take full advantage of people or to get with what you want, this is really about knowing the principle that, hey, if you tap into the person's fantasy, you will have control over them. And don't think, oh, but if I just show them numbers and I show them the truth, the hard truth, they'll believe me and this and more. I really think these chapters are really telling us, mix these things, these principles, with what you're doing already. And you're going to see drastic results, in your power, or your ability to gain power is going to go up through the roof. I think that's what the chapter is really saying.
Yeah, I think in my opinion, I think these chapters work together.
Wait, what?
I think these chapters work together.
How so?
I feel like Law 31 talks about to control your choices.
Mm-hmm.
And law 32 would be like control your beliefs.
You mean control your beliefs, or you mean
Controls beliefs. Sorry.
the what? I can't hear you.
It controls beliefs. It's like meaning. Okay, let me phrase it better. Law 31 would be like you're in control of your choices, right? It's the illusion of control. While law 32, it's like a dream seller,
Mm-hmm.
or like there's emotional motivation in it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they could be both work together because they both influence decision making and emotional perception.
So you're saying, like, for example, if there was a leader who's like saying, "Listen, imagine our country could be so much better. Everyone's wealthy. Everyone has money. There's no more poverty." Right. So if you want, who wants that? Everyone wants that. Okay, great.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
have two options here. You guys are going to choose. You guys are
Right.
going to choose. I'm not going to choose. The people who you guys voted for me, you guys are going to choose. Here's option A and B. Here it goes. Like that is that's what you're
Yeah,
saying.
that was a great way to do it. It's like I mean, you use 32 and then 31, but they go hand in hand. Like, let me sell you a dream. Let me give you an illusion of something that we could potentially gain. And let me give everyone some emotional motivation to be on my side. But to
Mm-hmm.
get to this point, we only have two options, guys. But both options is going to benefit me, and you won't know that because at the end of the day, I have control of the outcome.